Where are they? Where are my dragons?
I told you before, I don't know where they are. Do you even thrones, Danny? Welcome to the Fortress of Dorkness, the nerdy nexus for all your geeky needs. I'm your host, the Grand Duchess of Villarreal. Wait, what? Hark, good sirs, for we are trotting on our overgrown mares to a tale set long before the time of frigid wolves, incestuous golden lions, and dragons with sand and orifices you don't want to know about. There's a reason they breathe fire. Yep. It's the tale of Dunk and Egg from the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. Dunk the Squire becomes Sir Duncan the Tall, taking up after his master, the late Sir Arlen of Pennytree, as a hedge knight. On the road to the tourney at Ashford, he meets a bald young boy named Egg. The boy forcibly becomes Sir Dunk's squire, much like Musa and myself, thus beginning an adventure set 90 years before the events of a Game of Thrones. The stories are written by George R.R. Martin himself and are based off of his spin-off novella that accompany the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Yes, the man wrote these books, adapted them into comics, and then wrote a slew of other source material that doesn't even matter before even finishing the main series itself, which he will never do.
You let that sink in.
The first of these novels is The Hedge Knight, which introduces us to Duncan and Egg and sets up for many future events in the Seven Kingdoms that are mentioned in the main series. Dunk attempts to enter a tourney to earn a little cash to establish himself as a knight.
Start the damn joust before I piss myself.
But winds up saving a puppeteer he has goo-goo eyes for by smacking around Aerion Targaryen of the famous Targaryens.
You know of whom I speak.
Now it's Dunk versus Aerion with a little help from Egg and some others. The second story, The Sworn Sword, picks up 2 years later as our adventuring compatriots find themselves in the service of Sir Eustace Osgrey during a drought. Like California, a dispute over a stream leads to a clash with Lady Roanne Weber, known as the Red Widow, who Dunk himself fancies. Couldn't they just bypass the whole thing?
I'm on one side, see? I'm on the other side. I'm on the East Bank, I'm on the West Bank. It is not that critical.
The Hedge Knight was originally published as 6 issues by DeBell Brothers, Image Comics, and Devil's Due Publishing in 2003. The Sworn Sword was published as 6 issues by Marvel in 2007. Currently, they are both being published by Amazon's Jet City Comics as complete graphic novels. Plans have been set to adapt the third story, The Mystery Knight, with no estimated release date as of this video. Not unlike George's other work. Speaking of, as we mentioned, the story was written by Mr. Martin, adapted to comic format by Ben Avery, and illustrated by Mike S. Miller. The stories are an interesting look at the history of Westeros. Set roughly a century ahead of the War of Five Kings, we learn much about life in the Seven Kingdoms prior to the fall of the Targaryen bloodline and the Mad King. Typical of Martin's storytelling, the actions of both our leads result in bittersweet conclusions. Not everyone is as they seem, and both sides ride a thin line with consequences. Major spoilers coming up. Hide your kitties, if you don't want to have this story ruined. Not like it matters or anything, it's not like it's Jon Snow's parents or whatever. Those of you who watch the television adaptation of Martin's books may remember Maester Aemon of Night's Watch fame, and this iconic scene prior to his death where he talked about his brother, Eggy.
Egg. I dreamed that I was old.
Well, if you didn't put 2 and 2 together because your local educational institution is no different than the ones in Flea Bottom, Aemon's brother Eggy is Egg from the tale.
What in the ass?
Egg would go on to become Aegon Targaryen, also known as Aegon the Unlikely, he who is clotted of ear, the 5th of his name, and the 15th ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, thus making him, oh come on guys, another list? Fine, let's do this. Chewie, get over here. grandfather of Ares the Mad King, great-grandfather of Pain in My Chest, Rhaegar, golden boy Viserys, and mother of Where Are My Dragons, Daenerys. And also great-great-grandfather to Jon It's Cold Up Here, Snow, and Dany's Dragons. I guess that makes them Scaly Fellas and Jon cousins, if the Jon Dany thing wasn't weird enough. But old Dunk wouldn't be left behind. When Aeg became king of the Seven Kingdoms, Dunk became the Lord Commander of his Kingsguard. Other characters would go on to herald familiars too, such as Lady Webber, who would become the grandmother of none other than Tywin Lannister. Unlike the famous series this spins out of, both Dunk and Aeg's story's content is relatively mild. Aside from the occasional bloody panel, very few things could be considered graphic, thus making these tales more appropriate for the preteen readers. Due to the popularity of the HBO counterpart, these graphic novels can easily be found at your local bookstore, comic shop, and online retailer. You can also find the 3 novellas in these places. Future installments in this series were planned, but have been postponed until a certain someone finishes writing a certain something. Get your ass on it. Which means don't hold your breath. You heard me, getting all these people's hopes up. That's all we have for today. Leave your comments with the Maesters because, let's face it, they're the only ones that care.
Send a raven.
Please like, subscribe, and pledge your sword to our social media. This has been Beyond the Big Two on the Fortress of Dorkness. I'm Christian Villarreal, and always remember, never fear the dork up here.